Progress is one of the most powerful words in the human psyche. It implies movement, improvement, safety, and purpose. From childhood, we are conditioned to believe that growth is inherently good, that forward motion means we are becoming smarter, stronger, freer, or more successful. But embedded within that belief is a vulnerability, because when progress becomes the promise, it can also become the weapon. The dark psychology of progression refers to the calculated use of psychological influence to manipulate, control, or exploit individuals under the appearance of advancement, self-improvement, or mutual benefit. Unlike overt coercion, this form of manipulation works slowly and subtly. It doesn't force compliance, it guides it step by step until resistance feels irrational or even immoral. At its core, this phenomenon hijacks normal social influence, persuasion, trust building, motivation, and turns it into a system of control. Human beings are wired for consistency. Once we take a step in a particular direction, we feel pressure, internally and socially, to continue moving forward. This is not a flaw. It is how learning, relationships, and societies function. But when someone understands this deeply and exploits it, progression becomes a trap. Manipulators rarely ask for everything at once. Instead, they frame each step as reasonable, logical, and aligned with your own values. By the time the true cost becomes visible, you are already invested, emotionally, socially, financially, or psychologically. This is where manipulative progression techniques come into play. One of the most studied techniques in psychology is the foot in the door method. It begins with a request so small that refusing feels unnecessary, even rude. But each yes subtly reshapes your self-image. I'm the kind of person who helps. I'm committed to this. I've already come this far. Over time, these small agreements escalate into major obligations. For example, in a workplace setting, an employee is asked to stay late once just to help the team. Then again during a crunch week. Then weekends. Eventually, unpaid overtime becomes the expectation, not the exception. When the employee finally pushes back, they're framed as not a team player, despite the fact that the original request was framed as voluntary. The manipulation isn't in the first request, it's in the progression. Unlike classic sales tactics that create artificial urgency, the black sand method exploits urgency that already exists. It presents a decision as if time is already running out, whether it truly is or not, and then uses the commitment consistency principle to prevent reconsideration. Once you mentally commit, backing out feels like failure. For example, a real estate investor tells a buyer, "This opportunity fits exactly what you said you wanted. I can't promise it'll still be here tomorrow." Nothing is explicitly threatened, but the implication is clear. If you hesitate, you lose progress. The buyer isn't responding to facts. They're responding to the fear of undoing forward motion. One of the most sophisticated forms of manipulation is semantic infiltration. The act of hijacking a target's language, beliefs, and values to redefine boundaries without triggering alarm. Words like growth, freedom, potential, alignment, and self-actualization are not neutral. They carry emotional weight. When a manipulator uses your own vocabulary against you, resistance feels like self-betrayal. For example, a controlling partner reframes isolation as growth. You've evolved. You don't need those people anymore. They're holding you back. Suddenly, maintaining friendships isn't independence. It's regression. The victim isn't being controlled. They're being liberated. This is one of the most dangerous aspects of dark progression psychology. It disguises loss as gain. Cults represent the most extreme manifestation of progression manipulation. They rarely begin with radical demands. Instead, they offer clarity, belonging, and purpose, things many people are already searching for. Progression within a cult is often framed as levels, stages, or enlightenment. Each step forward requires greater sacrifice, but also promises deeper truth. Isolation becomes a feature, not a flaw. External voices are reframed as threats to progress. For example, members are encouraged to reduce contact with family who don't understand the journey. Over time, the group becomes the sole source of validation, identity, and meaning. Leaving doesn't just mean disagreement. It means losing progress, purpose, and self. At that point, compliance isn't enforced by leaders. It's enforced internally. Many practitioners of progression manipulation score high in what psychologists call the Dark Triad: narcissism, entitlement, and need for admiration, psychopathy, lack of empathy and remorse, Machiavellianism, strategic manipulation, and deception. These individuals view relationships transactionally. Progression is not shared growth, it's leverage. They are often charming, articulate, and convincing because emotional resonance is a tool, not a bond. For them, influence is not about mutual benefit, it's about control. At the heart of dark psychology is a desire to control not just behavior, but interpretation. Manipulators want to define what progress looks like, what success means, and what failure implies. If they control the narrative, they control reality. For example, in a toxic organization, burnout is reframed as the cost of excellence. Questioning leadership becomes negativity. Leaving is framed as weakness rather than self-preservation. Progression becomes a moral obligation. From an evolutionary psychology perspective, some dark traits are associated with a fast life strategy, a focus on short-term gain, dominance, and exploitation over long-term stability and trust. In this framework, progression is used to extract maximum value quickly, often leaving long-term damage in its wake. This explains why some manipulators push for rapid escalation, commitment, intimacy, investment, before trust can fully form.